Australian naval launch carries Queen Elizabeth and the Duke of Edinburgh toward shore in Sydney. Moments later, Elizabeth sets foot on Australia, the first reigning monarch ever to visit the Commonwealth. More than 1 million residents of Sydney turn out to greet the popular young queen, who is starting a 2-month visit, which will take her from one side of the continent to the other. Enthusiastic crowds line the 9-mile route to the cenotaph, where Elizabeth is to lay a wreath at the memorial honoring Australia's war dead. The camera gives us an informal glimpse of the Queen. Elizabeth fulfills the first of her countless royal functions, capturing the hearts of her subjects down under.
After nearly 6 years of horror behind the Iron Curtain, John HVASTA arrives at New York's Idlewild Airport for an emotional reunion with his parents. Newsmen and a huge crowd greet the 26-year-old ex-GI in a tumultuous welcome home. Behind a police escort, he's whisked to Hillside, New Jersey, where a big parade gets underway. For HVASTA, it's a happy moment, passing the Freedom tank in which others also escaped from Czechoslovakia. A Czech-born American, HVASTA was arrested when he went back to study. Home after 4 years in prison, a miraculous escape, and nearly 2 years in grim hiding from Czech police. Home at last is John HVASTA. A huge Air Force plane crashes near San Francisco. Shallow draft skimmer boats like this rescued the crew of 13 when the 4-engine Super Constellation came down in the icy water. The big plane was bound from Sacramento to Hamilton Air Force Base in heavy fog. Ironically, it was a flying radar laboratory for testing blind flying equipment. A $1 million plane is wrecked, but the lucky 13 can fly again. In Karachi, Pakistan, the Aga Khan is weighed in a traditional birthday ceremony while 50,000 followers watch. The huge crowd breaks into applause as the revered leader of Ismaili Muslims approaches the dais. The 78-year-old ruler sits as his subjects prepare to counterbalance his weight with platinum donated by 10 million Muslims. Most of the money represented on the revolving scale goes into a fund for financial aid to the Khan's subjects. His net weight is 215 pounds. That's $230,000 for the Aga Khan. The British capture a leader of the feared Mau Mau terrorists. In Kenya territory, natives see the hated General China carried away. He was wounded in the neck before surrendering. For his crimes, the sentence is death by hanging.
Former President Truman rips into the Republican administration before 2,000 persons at a Roosevelt Day dinner sponsored by the Americans for Democratic Action in New York City. Daughter Margaret is on hand as her father fires the first Democratic blast against the Republicans in a crucial election year. In Washington, meanwhile, President Eisenhower attacks the Democrats before 8,000 GOP followers gathered for a Lincoln Day box supper. The price is $1.50 a box, with a choice of chicken or tuna fish, and they go fast. Attending are the members of Ike's cabinet, including Treasury Secretary Humphrey and the Missus, and Defense Secretary Wilson and his wife. A 2-minute ovation rocks the arena as President and Mrs. Eisenhower arrive, smiling and in high spirits. Ike, who urges his party to face the future with the faith of Abraham Lincoln, greets former President Hoover, still active at 79. GOP faithful and their leaders whoop it up for a Republican year in 1954.
Champion cowpokes prove no match for the crazy mixed-up critters at the annual Palm Springs Rodeo. Easy does it. If it's money the cowboys are after, they're getting their share of bucks. Been feeling sluggish lately? Here's just the thing to give you a lift. Watch. Who laid an egg? In New York York's Madison Square Garden, 15,000 track fans turn out for the MILLROSE games. The Wanamaker Mile finds lightly regarded Lawton Lamb setting the early pace, with Luxembourg's Jose Bartel, the Olympic 1,500-meter champion, in second place. Whirling around the oval saucer, the field spins into the last quarter. It's Len Truex ahead now with Bartel still second, but watch the flying foreigner snatch the lead and pull away with effortless ease. The roaring crowd urges Bartel on to a 20-yard victory in a brilliant 4 minutes, 7 5/10 seconds. A smashing triumph for Jose Bartel. They're away in the 60-yard hurdles. Keep an eye on Harrison Dillard in the far lane, who's after his 8th straight MILLROSE title. And he's got it. Another first for ageless Bones Dillard. In the 880-yard run, long-striding Mal Whitfield, the two-time Olympic king, is in second place as the field heads into the final lap. Whitfield makes his bid, sprinting into the lead like a man with his coattails on fire. And Mal lopes home to an easy 3-yard victory. An hour later, Mal is back in the 600, and there he is, taking the lead again. Engineering the first successful MILLROSE double in 19 years, he breaks the tape in front. Marvelous Mal Whitfield.